The screen opens on darkness. A single heartbeat sounds. Then another. Then another. But this one skips slightly. Most men think they'll feel it coming. A crushing chest pain. A moment of clarity before everything goes dark. But that's Hollywood. The real story starts weeks before, sometimes months. Your body doesn't scream, it whispers. And most of us have learned to ignore whispers. Cut to a regular morning. Coffee brewing. Phone buzzing. The mundane ritual of Tuesday at 7:47 a.m. We see quick clips, a man buttoning his shirt, checking his reflection, typing at a desk. The narrator's tone shifts. Not alarmist, but precise. Clinical. Like a detective laying out evidence. This is Marcus, 46 years old, VP of marketing at a mid-sized tech firm. He exercises 3 times a week. His BMI is normal. His last blood work came back mostly fine. By every conventional metric, Marcus is doing everything right. The camera pans through his morning, gym clothes, protein shake, email checking. But for the past 6 weeks, something has been shifting. Not dramatically, not obviously, just shifting. A moment of silence. The heartbeat sound returns, still regular, but with that subtle irregularity underneath. 2 months from now, Marcus will have a heart attack. It won't kill him, but it will change him. And looking back, he'll realize something that haunts him. Every single warning sign was there, not screaming, but there. What if I told you that your body isn't trying to surprise you? What if every heart attack victim, looking back, can point to a map of signals they missed? Not because the signals weren't clear enough, but because they didn't understand the language. Your body doesn't send one warning. It sends dozens. And they're not random. They're organized. They follow a pattern, a map. Today, we're learning to read that map before it's too late. The opening title appears, Silent Map, the Body's Warning Atlas. Marcus isn't a cautionary tale of negligence. He's the opposite. He wakes at 5:45 a.m. His gym bag is packed the night before. He does cardio, treadmill runs, some weights. He's conscious about diet most days. He drinks moderately. He doesn't smoke. On paper, Marcus represents the modern man who is trying. But there's something else about Marcus that matters more. His job is high stress, not the dramatic kind where you quit tomorrow. The slow burn kind. The kind where you check emails at 11 p.m. because a client in Singapore is having a crisis. The kind where your shoulders live near your ears. The kind where you've stopped noticing how tired you actually are. His stress is normalized. 3 years ago, his father had bypass surgery at age 51. Marcus was there during recovery. He watched his father shuffle down hospital corridors. He heard the conversations about close call and lucky to catch it. And then, like everyone does, Marcus moved on. He thought, that won't be me. I'm more careful. I exercise. It's not arrogance, it's pattern matching. His father was overweight. Marcus isn't. His father didn't exercise. Marcus does. Ergo, different outcome. This is the trap Marcus fell into. The same trap millions fall into. He confused some prevention with comprehensive prevention. 6 weeks ago, something started. Small. Marcus was walking to a meeting. Nothing unusual, just across campus to another building. It's maybe a 5-minute walk. Normally, he takes it without thinking. That day, he noticed something. A mild discomfort in his left arm. Not pain, not sharp. Just a strange sensation, like the muscle was slightly fatigued, even though he hadn't done anything with that arm. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then it was gone. Marcus thought nothing of it. A week later, he's at the gym. Chest day. He's done his usual routine 100 times. Bench press, incline work, some cable flies. Nothing exceptional. Midway through his second set, he notices his jaw feels tight. His teeth feel slightly clenched, and there's this odd sensation in his left shoulder blade, like a small knot of tension. He stretches. It eases. He finishes his workout. That night, he's sitting at dinner with his wife. They're talking about weekend plans, kids' soccer schedule, normal life. But Marcus notices he's slightly out of breath from walking up the stairs before dinner, the stairs he takes daily without thinking. He mentions it to his wife. I think my cardio might be slipping. She suggests he add another day at the gym. He doesn't think, this could mean something. He thinks, I need to work harder. 2 weeks in, the pattern changes slightly. Now the fatigue isn't just in his arm, it's more general. He's tired, more than usual. He attributes it to the extra gym sessions he's added trying to compensate for perceived declining fitness. But there's something else now. Indigestion. Not severe, mild, the kind that antacids help with. He keeps antacids in his desk drawer at work. He started having this weird pattern where, around 3 p.m., he feels mildly nauseated. Not sick enough to leave work sick, just not quite right. He eats a snack. It passes. Marcus is now 6 weeks into these signals, and he hasn't connected any of them. Why would he? They're all separate. Different times, different contexts, different seeming causes. Arm fatigue equals overtraining. Jaw tension equals stress. Breath shortness equals declining cardio. Fatigue equals working too hard. Nausea equals stress eating or irregular meals. Each signal has a plausible explanation in isolation, but they're not isolated. They're coordinates on a map. Here's what Marcus doesn't know about his own body. 3 years ago, when his father had his cardiac event, something invisible was happening in Marcus's bloodstream. Not because of genetics alone, though his family history mattered, but because of the compounding effects of chronic stress, sleep debt, processed foods, and the low-grade inflammation that modern life produces. It starts with the endothelium. That's the thin, protective lining inside your arteries. Think of it like the smooth interior wall of a water pipe. When that wall is healthy, cholesterol particles and other inflammatory agents flow past without sticking. But when you live in chronic stress, when you eat processed foods high in oxidized oils, when you sleep 5 hours instead of 7, when you sit for 8 hours a day, the endothelium gets damaged. Microscopically damaged, but damaged nonetheless. It's not dramatic, it's not acute. It's the difference between a pristine water pipe and one with microscopic scratches in its interior surface. Cholesterol particles start to accumulate in those tiny scratches. Your immune system responds by sending white blood cells to clean up the damage. But instead of cleaning it up, they create inflammation. More inflammation attracts more cholesterol, more buildup. This is atherosclerosis, the silent thickening of your arteries. Marcus has probably had this process running quietly in his left anterior descending artery, one of the main vessels that feeds his heart, for years. But it's only in the past 6 weeks that the narrowing has reached a point where the blood flow is becoming noticeably restricted during certain activities or states of exertion. When blood flow to the heart is restricted, the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen. This is called ischemia, and ischemia speaks a language. But most men don't understand that language. The language is distributed. It's not just one signal from the heart. It's multiple signals from multiple systems reacting to that same core problem. When your heart is experiencing ischemia, even mild ischemia, your nervous system activates. Your body is detecting that something is wrong. The vagus nerve, which runs from your brain all the way down through your chest and abdomen, gets activated. When the vagus nerve is activated, it can cause jaw tension. The vagus nerve passes through your jaw. Nausea, since the vagus nerve controls your digestive system. And a sensation of arm fatigue or discomfort, which is referred pain. Your brain interprets cardiac pain as coming from your arm. Your body is also in low-grade stress response. Cortisol is elevated. Your body is activating its sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. This produces general fatigue because your body is burning energy trying to manage a stress it doesn't consciously register. It produces shortness of breath because your respiratory rate increases slightly as your body tries to get more oxygen. It produces mild digestive issues because blood flow gets diverted away from digestion toward muscles. These aren't separate problems. They're coordinates on a map, all pointing to the same underlying location: insufficient blood flow to the heart muscle. But here's what Marcus didn't understand. His body was trying to tell him, not with a single dramatic event, but with a pattern. The pattern is what the silent map shows. Marcus made 3 critical mistakes, not because he was ignorant, but because he understood the individual signals and disconnected them. When his arm felt fatigued at the gym, Marcus didn't think, "This is unusual and worth investigating." He thought, "My fitness is declining. I need to train harder. This is a catastrophic reframe." Instead of investigating the signal, Marcus amplified his stress on his cardiovascular system. He added another gym day. He pushed harder. His body was sending a message: something is wrong with blood flow. And Marcus responded by, "Let me demand more blood flow capacity." It's the physical equivalent of a warning light going on in your car and stepping on the accelerator to see if the engine will respond better. When his jaw was tight, when he felt slightly nauseated, when he was more tired than usual, Marcus attributed all of these to external factors: stress at work, irregular meals, declining fitness, work schedule. This is human. We're meaning-making creatures. We construct narratives that make sense of discomfort, and usually those narratives point outward. The circumstances are making me tired. Not my body is having a problem, but the body is having a problem. And the way to know is to ask, is this new, and are multiple things changing at once? Marcus had never been especially exhausted before. He had never noticed his jaw being routinely tight. He had never had persistent indigestion. These were new coordinates on his personal map. But because he didn't recognize that these were new, he didn't recognize that they might be related. Marcus exercised. He watched his weight. He didn't smoke. These are good things, but they're not a complete protection. You can have healthy habits and still have underlying arterial disease. You can be fit and still have inflammation you can't see. You can do everything right and still miss the signals because you're confident you're protected. This confidence is dangerous because it makes you less likely to pay attention to odd sensations. If Marcus had thought, "I exercise and don't smoke, therefore I'm protected," he might not have dismissed the arm discomfort as just training fatigue. He might have thought, "This is unusual for me, and unusual is worth investigating." Something changed in Marcus's life at week 8. His company had a wellness fair, the kind where they set up booths and try to encourage employees to do health screenings. Marcus almost skipped it, but his wife had mentioned his father's cardiac history, suggesting he should probably get checked out, and it was convenient. He stopped by the health screening booth during lunch. They did the basics: blood pressure, weight, BMI, pulse. Everything came back in the normal range. The technician said, "You look great. Keep up the good work." Marcus was walking away, feeling validated in his approach, when a cardiologist who was volunteering at the fair happened to ask him a few follow-up questions. "Any unusual sensations in the past few weeks? Shortness of breath? Chest discomfort?" Marcus almost said no, but something made him pause. He mentioned the arm fatigue, the jaw tightness, the occasional indigestion, the fatigue. He minimized it all. Probably just stress and overtraining. The cardiologist's expression changed subtly. "Has anyone in your family had cardiac events?" "My father. But he was overweight." The cardiologist nodded slowly. "I'd like to run an EKG. Takes 5 minutes." 15 minutes later, the EKG was done. The cardiologist looked at it, then looked at Marcus. "I'm seeing some changes that suggest cardiac stress. Nothing acute right now, but enough that I'd recommend you get a stress test and some advanced imaging, not as an emergency, but soon, within the next week." The world shifted. Not because something new had suddenly emerged, but because something hidden had been made visible. Marcus had a stress test 3 days later. During the test, When his heart rate reached a certain threshold, he felt the arm discomfort return. The technician noted it. The imaging showed it clearly, a significant narrowing in his left anterior descending artery, about 75% blockage. His cardiologist used a phrase that changed Marcus's perspective. "You're looking at a time bomb with a very uncertain fuse." The implications were staggering. 6 weeks ago, Marcus had all the information he needed. His body had been broadcasting coordinates to a map, but he hadn't learned to read the map yet. The arm sensation, the jaw tension, the indigestion, the fatigue, the shortness of breath, these weren't random discomforts. They were a language, a pattern, a geography of warning. The turning point wasn't the EKG or the stress test. It was the moment Marcus realized, my body was trying to tell me, and I was listening to it, but I didn't understand the language. He had attributed each signal to a separate cause, but they were all caused by the same underlying problem: insufficient blood supply to his heart. Understanding this changed everything about how he would move through his body from that moment forward. The human body doesn't have one warning system. It has many, and they all activate when the heart is under strain. Understanding this is what separates men who catch problems early from men who don't. The most common signal, and often the most misunderstood, is discomfort in the left arm. This is called referred pain. Your heart doesn't have pain sensors in the same way your skin does. Instead, it has sensors that detect when it's not getting enough blood. When those sensors activate, your brain gets a signal. Something is wrong. But your brain doesn't always correctly localize where that signal is coming from. So it distributes the sensation. Often, that distribution includes the left arm, the left shoulder, or between the shoulder blades. Marcus felt this as fatigue, not pain. This is also common. The sensation can manifest as heaviness, tiredness, or weakness, not sharp pain. For Marcus, noticing it during his gym session was valuable information he missed. When I demand more from my body physically, this sensation appears. That's a coordinate. The vagus nerve creates a direct connection between your brain, your heart, and your jaw. When your heart is experiencing ischemia, the vagus nerve often responds. This can create jaw tension or clenching, teeth sensitivity, a sensation of tightness in the throat, or difficulty swallowing. Marcus experienced the jaw tension. It was so subtle that he wrote it off as stress. But here's the diagnostic question. Is this jaw tension present all day, or does it come in episodes? If it comes in episodes, during certain activities, certain times of day, certain stress moments, that's a coordinate. That's the map showing you when the problem is worst. The vagus nerve also controls your digestive system. When it's activated in response to cardiac stress, digestion becomes secondary priority. This creates nausea, which is subtle, not vomiting, indigestion, difficulty eating larger meals, bloating, or lack of appetite. Marcus had indigestion. He treated it with antacids, which worked temporarily. But the real signal wasn't, I have indigestion. The signal was, my digestive system is being suppressed by nervous system activation. When your heart isn't pumping efficiently, or when arteries are narrowed, your body responds by increasing respiratory rate. Your body is trying to extract more oxygen from each breath. This manifests as slight shortness of breath during normal activities, needing to catch your breath after climbing stairs when this is new for you, feeling like you can't take a full breath, or a sense of air hunger. Marcus noticed he was winded walking upstairs. He attributed it to declining cardio. But the real signal was, my body is having to work harder to deliver oxygen to itself. The demand is outstripping the supply. This is perhaps the most dangerous signal because it's also the most normal seeming. When your body is in chronic stress response, when it's dealing with a problem it can't consciously solve, it burns energy. Cortisol remains elevated. Your nervous system is partially activated even when you're resting, This creates pervasive tiredness that doesn't quite go away with normal sleep. Marcus felt this. He worked harder to address it. More gym, more willpower, which actually made it worse. The coordinate here is this fatigue different from normal tiredness? Does sleep not fully restore me? Here's the critical insight. None of these signals are diagnostic on their own. A person can have jaw tension from stress, arm discomfort from overtraining, indigestion from bad food, fatigue from work, shortness of breath from declining fitness. But when you see multiple of these signals appearing together in the same time window, especially if they're new for you, that's when the coordinates start forming a map. The map points to one location. Something is restricting blood flow to your heart. Marcus had all of these signals present simultaneously over 6 weeks. That was the map. The question every man should ask is, are these signals new? Are they clustering? Are they appearing around the same time period? If yes, that's when you investigate. Not with panic, but with action. Understanding the problem is the first step, but understanding the solution is what actually saves your life. Marcus's solution involved his cardiologist, a stent placement, and lifestyle changes. This is one version of the story. But before we get to medical intervention, there's something more important. Early detection. This is foundational, and almost no one does it. Your body has a baseline. The way you normally feel, the way you normally breathe, your normal fatigue levels, your normal arm sensation. If you don't know your baseline, you can't recognize when something has changed. This means spending time actually paying attention to how your body feels when nothing is wrong. Not obsessively, just genuinely. When you're resting, what does normal fatigue feel like for you? When you climb stairs, what's your normal breathing pattern? What does your jaw normally feel like? Marcus didn't have this baseline, so when his baseline changed, he didn't recognize it. Creating a baseline takes a few weeks, but it's the most valuable diagnostic tool you have, your own body awareness. One symptom means nothing. A cluster of symptoms means you should investigate. Ask yourself, in the past 4 weeks, have I noticed more than one new sensation or change? The sensations don't have to be dramatic, but they should be new. If you've never had indigestion, and now you do. If you've never been unusually fatigued, and now you are. If you've never noticed your arm feeling heavy, and now it does. These cluster together and form a pattern. This is the map showing itself. Every man over 40 should have a baseline EKG, which takes 5 minutes and shows the heart's electrical activity, baseline blood work including lipids, inflammation markers like hsCRP, and blood pressure, and a conversation with a doctor about family history. This is your reference point. If something changes later, you have something to compare it against. Marcus had none of this. When the cardiologist ran his EKG, there was nothing to compare it to. The changes were visible, but there was no before to make the after undeniable. Risk factors are the conditions that make atherosclerosis more likely. Family history, age over 40, chronic stress, sleep deprivation, sedentary periods despite exercise, and processed food consumption. Even with moderate diet, most people consume more than they realize. You don't need all of these to be at risk. Even 2 or 3 significantly increase your odds. Marcus had at least 4. This should have triggered more aggressive monitoring. Standard cholesterol testing only tells part of the story. You should know your total cholesterol, which should be below 200, your LDL, bad cholesterol, which should be below 100, your HDL, good cholesterol, which should be above 40, your triglycerides, which should be below 150, and your hsCRP, high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, which measures inflammation. Elevated inflammation is a major risk factor. More importantly, know if these are changing over time. Stable numbers are good. Numbers that are worsening over time, even if they're still in the normal range, are a warning. This sounds tedious, but it's powerful. For 30 days, note any unusual arm or shoulder sensations, including the time activity, and duration. Jaw tension or throat tightness and its timing and duration. Digestive changes such as nausea and indigestion and their timing. Fatigue levels, comparing them to your baseline as normal, slightly elevated, or significantly elevated. And breathing patterns, especially during normal activities. You're looking for a pattern. You're mapping the coordinates. After 30 days, look at what you've recorded. Are there clusters? Are there situations that trigger multiple symptoms at once? Here's what Marcus should have said, and what you should say if you notice a map. Over the past time frame, I've noticed several new changes. I've had symptom 1, symptom 2, and symptom 3. These are new for me. They seem to cluster around activity or time. Given my family history, I'd like to get a stress test and some advanced imaging to make sure my heart is functioning well. This is specific. This is compelling. This prompts action. Don't say, "I've been tired and my arm feels weird sometimes." That's noise. Say, "In the past 6 weeks, I've developed new arm fatigue during exercise, jaw tension in the afternoons, and indigestion in the evenings. I've never experienced these before. My father had cardiac issues. I'd like advanced cardiac testing." That's a map. That's evidence. That prompts investigation. Marcus survived. He had a stent placed in his left anterior descending artery. The procedure took 90 minutes. He was home the next day. But what changed most wasn't his cardiac function. It was his understanding. He realized that his body had been trying to communicate with him for 6 weeks. Not subtly, not inaudibly, but in a language he hadn't learned to read. The arm fatigue, the jaw tension, the indigestion, the fatigue, the breathing. They were all coordinates. They were all pointing to the same problem. His body was mapping the danger. He just didn't know how to read maps. Here's what Marcus wants every man to understand, because he now spends his time thinking about this. Your body is not trying to surprise you. A heart attack isn't a lightning strike from a clear sky. It's the culmination of a story your body has been trying to tell you. Not always clearly, but persistently. The signals are there. They're distributed. They're subtle. They can be explained away individually. But together, they form a pattern, a map. The choice is whether you learn to read that map or whether you wait until your body has no choice but to scream. Marcus learned late. He was lucky. His time bomb with an uncertain fuse had a fuse that lasted long enough. But luck isn't a strategy. Your strategy is know your baseline, notice clustering, track patterns, get baseline testing, understand your risk factors, and have the conversation with your doctor when you see the map forming. Your body is constantly creating maps of your internal state. The question is, are you learning the language? The answer determines whether you're reading the map in time or whether you're reading it in a hospital bed, wondering why you didn't pay attention sooner. Marcus paid attention late. You don't have to. The map is always there. You just have to learn to read it.